You're listening to Something Cheeky, a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references. Welcome to Something Cheeky, the Gentleman Bastards edition, where we discuss the Lies of Locke Lamora, book one of the series by Scott Lynch. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
Today we're covering the 14th interlude, The Daughters of Camorr. In this chapter, we learn that ladies of the night deserve a lot more respect than they get. Before we get into your revelation and your quote, I'm going to say that the word whore was used in this chapter a lot.
Excessively.
And it made me very uncomfortable. First of all, it's a terrible word. It's always been an insult, basically forever. And I think that in the 10 years between when this book was written or published and now, that word has really, really fallen out of favor. Not that it was in favor, but it didn't seem quite as vulgar as it does now. And so I think when Scott Lynch wrote this, it wouldn't have been as jarring if I had read this 10 years ago. But now when I read it, every time I see that word, I'm like, oh my God, stop. Just please use a different word. This is a terrible thing to say. It's just completely pejorative and I hate it. And I am not going to say that word anymore because I don't like it. Prostitutes, not great, but it's a lot better. Sex workers, fine. And, you know, in things like this that are styled to be in much older times, words like that make more sense. But even then, prostitute works just fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about a Song of Ice and Fire books, I mean, I think he uses that word a lot, doesn't he?
Probably. But also, calling a woman a whore to her face, even if she is a prostitute, is not going to get you anything good.
No, it's terrible. It's a terrible word.
And so, even in that context, I think that women were referred to using that word, but they weren't talked to like that was. Nobody said, hey, whore, come here. Mm-hmm. You know, they used people's names.
Right.
What a dandy thing to do. So novel.
Sex workers have names, too. Learn them.
Something else that bothered me about this chapter, which has nothing to do with that, too, that at least one man, possibly two, were named in this, but no women got names. There was not a single named female character in this.
Yeah, why did the men get names and the women didn't?
You can't give me the name of the woman that stabbed Trevor.
Right.
Or the names of the madams for the Gilded Lilies and the Doxies.
Yep.
Give me something. You know, there's gotta be a leader, and I'd love it when we get to meet madams in books.
Yeah.
They're always fantastic characters. And the fact that we got none of that I feel like it was a huge missed opportunity for one. And also, just not fair.
It's really just pushing the male dominance of the story, of the book. Just like women are supporting characters and, what's the word?
Secondary.
Yeah, secondary and interchangeable, especially like the twins.
Yeah.
They said several times, I can think of at least 2 times they said when people were talking about the Berengese twins that they didn't know which was which.
Yeah. Did we ever learn their names?
Yeah, it's like Cheryl or something. But with the Sansa twins, when somebody was talking about them, they knew which one they were talking to.
Yeah, that's true.
But with the female twins, it's just one of the twins.
Yeah.
So they got names, but they couldn't be identified.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just over and over saying that women aren't as important. That's exactly what it's saying.
Yeah. And you know, it doesn't change the fact that this book is fantastic and the writing is great and the story is great. But
I'm not disagreeing with that.
I feel like it does have a hole where interesting, strong women characters would be. You know, we've got the Spider, awesome. We've got the Donna, great. But even them, we hardly ever see them. You know, we see them for such small amounts of time. And only in one case was it the two of them together where we got to talk about some interesting things happening.
Right.
But yeah, it's unfortunate, and I think it really could have enriched the story if we had. I don't want to say he's disrespectful to women characters, to female characters.
He's not disrespectful, he's dismissive.
That's perfect word. Yeah. I'd like to see more.
It seems pretty obvious from this book that it was written for men.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a man reading this book would say, how come none of these women characters have names? You know what I mean?
We got Rude Trevor Vargas and then a bunch of whores. That's what we've got. You know, those are the characters in this interlude.
Even if they're going to be terrible women, just like we talk about terrible men in the story, they could have names too. They could have terrible nicknames even.
I mean, one night a particularly put upon whore found herself unwilling to participate in his preferred evening diversion. Like,
she couldn't have a name?
Janet, a particularly put upon prostitute, found herself, I mean, it's not that hard. I would have appreciated it. I feel like I'm begging for scraps here.
And it makes you wonder, is it Lynch being dismissive, or is that what he's trying to make the characters in the story seem like?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that.
So let's get into it. What's your revelation from this interlude?
So this interlude gives us the story of the pimp culture in Camorr and how it was undone by the sex workers and how they took steps to rule themselves. And there's a certain amount of girl power that I felt when they started taking over.
I love that the group just kept getting bigger and bigger.
And they just killed whoever was not working for them. I mean, if somebody was coming up against them, they're like, you know what? We don't need you. Mm-hmm. We are the ones that are needed. There are tons and tons of men, and they are going to keep coming whether we kill some of them or not.
And I loved this part, too, that after the women started banding together and offering their services, they had the more well-appointed chambers, and they were better situated than the women who still were under pimps. And so men just started going to them anyway because it was a better experience.
Yep.
Which says a lot.
I actually really liked this interlude, even though it was about a topic that's really distasteful.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about how, is Scott Lynch being dismissive of women characters, and then we're talking about how there's all this girl power. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what his motivation is for having this interlude yet, but the whole interlude is about these women taking over, and he still didn't name them.
Yeah.
It's so twisted.
Yep.
None of them get names, and they created their own businesses.
Yeah.
But their Johns get names? It's just like this crazy juxtaposition. So weird.
Yeah, it is. It's really strange.
But I did like the parts where the women stood up for themselves and took control of their own lives. As much as they could. They were still sex workers.
There was a point in there where it even said something like, even though they still weren't very happy with their lives, at least they had more control.
And they were probably a little more comfortable. I would be afraid of being beaten up constantly because there's no recourse for it.
Yeah. It's not like they're going to go to the Kappa and say, oh, hey, my pimp beat me up. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, nothing. Nothing would happen.
What was your favorite quote from this interlude?
Here's the quote. He was wise enough to understand that the women of Camorr could be underestimated only at great peril to one's health. I feel like that's an appropriate quote in our everyday life.
I agree. Back to the dismissive part, though. I feel like that sentiment is used in such a almost syrupy way in so many books and movies.
Yes,
which
I agree.
Also bothers me. It's sexist. It really is, because it's saying all women are stronger than you realize, and all women are smarter and more powerful, and all women are this. It's like, women are people, Some women you cannot underestimate. That's totally true.
Right.
Some women you can overestimate. It just doesn't...
There's a good illustration of that even in this chapter. Some of the women didn't leave the pimps.
Yeah.
So they were a different kind of woman.
Yeah, it's reductive. That's the word I was trying to think of. And that bothers me too. And again, 10 years ago when this came out, I probably wouldn't have even noticed. It wouldn't have bothered me. I would have been like, yeah, go women. You underestimate us. Haha. Look what it gets ya. But
it's almost like fake feminism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's saying that women are strong and you shouldn't underestimate us, but it's also saying all women are like that.
Yeah.
So it's doing both at the same time, and I think the idea is that you're supposed to take it as women are stronger than you think without noticing that they're saying every woman is stronger than you think.
And does
that make sense?
Yeah, there are certainly people who are far better at feminist criticism than I am and can put this into words. Yeah, I know some of our Lady Pod squads listening right now, and they're like, here's the exact sentence you're trying to say with this. This is what I'm talking around.
Yeah.
But I just can't get there.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody knows what we're saying.
Yeah.
And it is such a struggle for me with this. Because, yeah, like you're saying, he's painting these women as strong and able to, overcome these problems they have. But still at the same time, we don't get any information about these women. We don't find out who's in charge or the woman leading the charge.
And also, none of them go off and work in a shop or, at the grocery store. They're all still sex workers at the end of the chapter.
Yeah, that is weird too.
They've been given this freedom, but apparently they don't take it because that's the best they can do. I don't think that's true.
And of course, some women are totally happy with that life.
Which is fine.
But not everyone is.
Just because you are a sex worker doesn't mean that you're fine being that when another opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, I do have such a hard time with this, 5 pages of content in this book?
So I wonder, okay, why did Lynch put this in the book? Usually, the interludes are to give us a little bit of background for something that's going to happen in the next chapter. I have a feeling that the next chapter is not going to be girl power themed. I don't think that's what he's using it for. I have a feeling that it's being used because at some point in the next chapter or next couple chapters, I don't know, the women that are running these 2 brothels are going to have some interaction with Raza or the Spider or the Midnighters or something like that. And this is telling us why it's the women that are in the maybe negotiations or agreements because they rose to the top of this particular thing. Mm. So I mean, I can't imagine it's like, oh, and by the way, remember when there was the sex worker uprising? Well, we're going to talk about that. I don't know if they will.
You don't think it might be just referring to one of the women we already know and using this as a don't underestimate her?
So last week when we learned the name of this interlude, the Daughters of Camorr, I thought maybe we were talking about the Bologna twins.
Ah.
But as I started to read it, I realized, obviously, that that's not who we're talking about. But then I wondered if maybe one of these women was their mother.
Ah.
Because this is historical.
Mm-hmm.
So then I wondered if maybe one of these women is a relation to somebody that's in our current time.
He'd probably be older than Mother, because this is 50 years before Barsavi came to power. He's been in power for 30, 40 years.
Oh, before Barsavi did? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So even further back than that.
Yeah. Several generations.
I wonder if there is a character, an unnamed character, in one of these brothels that has a relation somewhere in the present of the story.
I like that theory.
Thanks.
All right, let's get into what happens, which is not a ton, but some.
No, right.
But as soon as this started, I had forgotten about this interlude when we came back to it, and all I thought I was, God, more freaking history.
This was more interesting than the Miraggio chapter, though, or interlude. And you know what I've been saying. If we're going to go back in time, give me some Sansas.
And since they died, we haven't had them in the entrance.
Well, we did the one time.
We had the one, yeah, for 2 lines.
Right.
We haven't gotten to see everybody. It's been history. The past 3 interludes have been history.
Yeah. No Father Chains. It's been too far back for any of our current characters.
Yeah. And we're running out of time to see them again.
That's frustrating to me.
50 years before Barsavi took over, Rude Trevor Vargas, finally someone with a normal first name, was a pimp, and it said, to say he was an intemperate murderous lunatic would wound the feelings of most intemperate murderous lunatics. He was really terrible, more dangerous to a lot of the prostitutes than their Johns were. So really, what's the point of him?
Yeah.
Which we find out very quickly, they learn there is no point to him because one woman who is kind of unwillingly giving him her services, one of his women, kills him, stabs him in the leg before she even realizes what she's doing. She had her knife out. He dies. No one's upset. And the Kappa at that time, who is unnamed, I'll give you that, sent out another man to be their new pimp. It was dumber than a box of rocks. And all the women were like, oh yes, come see what our services are like. Sample our wares.
We don't have knives hiding in the nightstand drawer. What are you talking about?
He strips down. All I was picturing was, I can't remember his name because he didn't live long, but in Vikings when...
Couldn't get his clothes off fast enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To sleep with Siggy.
Yes.
In one of the first couple of episodes. Yeah, I pictured that. He's like, oh yeah, these women, it's gonna be great. And they stab him.
And that's a good illustration of the underestimation of these women being dangerous. They killed the last guy, and you show up and you think it's just gonna be fine?
Yeah. He was really, really dumb if he thought that was ever gonna go well.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But yeah, they went straight like a two brute on his ass and stabbing him from all sides.
Which also sounds horrible. I mean...
It really does. Well, he's naked, so it's not gonna end well for that guy. And it didn't. So the Kappa, not learning his lesson, sends several men next time. But by this time, some of the other sex workers in the city had killed their pimps and had joined together and spent their money on whatever weapons they could get, mostly crossbows, and were lying in wait for these guys and killed them all. They were never seen again.
And this interlude was not very long. Scott Lynch could have given it 5 more pages and given us interaction between these women.
Yeah.
How they made the plan, who started it, because this was obviously organized.
It would be wonderful to have seen a ringleader.
Yeah.
It would have been so exciting to have that sort of character to read about.
And it wouldn't have taken that much to fill a little bit more of this in.
And even just saying, Betty there was the ringleader and she, started talking to different women, 4 lines about her, and it would have given me such a great picture to work with.
And just, like maybe how she was communicating with the other women and, how the message was getting out, how they coordinated.
Yeah.
I think that would have made the interlude deeper.
Mm-hmm.
It would have given it more depth. And I don't think it would have taken much to do it.
Yeah, not much at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to have some sort of sex worker underground railroad, if you will.
Yeah, I was thinking like a 1 if by land, 2 if by sea lamp sort of signal. Or like Sansa and Brienne, when Sansa was in the tower.
Light the candle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she missed it. But something like that where...
She sat there for like 3 days waiting for it.
I know. But something like that where you're giving out signals that nobody else would notice was a signal.
Yeah.
So.
Those are always fun.
I think so.
I feel like every spy movie has something like that.
They're necessary.
Yeah.
Not everybody can make up hand movements that actually spell out a name without anybody noticing.
You have to put a classified ad in a specific paper every Sunday, and it's a code.
I actually kind of like that, too. I think that's kind of cool.
I feel like you and I should come up with some sort of code and know where to look for it if one of us goes missing.
Oh, yeah, we should. Just in case.
Something that means I'm okay, I just disappeared because I'm on the sex worker underground railroad. Or something that means, please come find me at this address. Here's our code.
Or something that means I've been kidnapped. Just help.
I don't know how I got to a newspaper classified office to get this in here, but please.
Depending on the kidnapper, sometimes they take their kidnapped victims, like, on errands with them.
Yeah.
And they're too scared to talk to other people, but, they write on a paper towel in a bathroom or something.
Or I could pretend to have Stockholm Syndrome until they trusted me. Like the OA.
Like the OA.
Yeah.
Totally.
Anyhow, Scott Lynch, we're sad you didn't give us more because I know you can.
Yes.
Because you're a great writer and you could have done it. And I'm disappointed in you.
Aw, he's just doing his best.
The number of women that have joined together just keeps growing. They're able to hire people from gangs to use as protection, and they start their own brothels. The service they offered, in comfortable and well-appointed chambers, was greatly superior to that which could be had from the gangs of whores still run by men. Prospective customers began to weigh in with their coin on the sides of the ladies. The war rages on. More women died, but for every woman that died, one of the Kappa's men died as well. Mm-hmm. Until, at that point, nobody else is even willing to be a pimp. Less than a year after Rude Trevor's death, the last few pimps clinging brutally to their livelihood were convinced to death in most cases, to give up their fight. I loved that line.
Yeah, that is a good line.
Yep. When I'm serious, I convince people to death. The aftermath of this whole war is that we get the Gilded Lilies on the east side and the Doxies on the west side. And they have a mixed territory in the middle in this snare where there's a lot of business to be had. They hire their own very loyal guards rather than gangers. They enforced civility among everyone. They didn't allow pimps in the city. Johns got in a lot of trouble if they beat up the prostitutes. There was this line which I did not like this line. And I'm having a hard time saying exactly why I don't like it. Is that hard lessons were handed out. As many men learned to their sorrow, it's impossible to be intimidating when one angry woman has your cock between her teeth and another is holding a stiletto to your kidneys. I know what it is about this line that bothers me. The women in this image are more powerful than the man. One is still in subservient position on her knees.
Yep.
And
yeah, I didn't like that sentence either.
Yeah.
Why couldn't she have been standing?
Even though they're strong, she's still in the middle of what's described in a demeaning way.
And also, him being naked is enough for them to have the upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
There are two of them. They have a weapon. They have at least one weapon. And he has nothing. He has no clothes and no weapons. So they already have the upper hand. So why did she also need to be in that position too?
And it doesn't even say that he's naked. It seems secondary that he's in a vulnerable position. But it's almost like a backhanded compliment.
Yes.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it does.
She's so strong, but she's still sucking your dick, you know?
Yeah, it has the same feeling as a backhanded compliment.
It still demeans her while it's trying to make her look like she's the one in charge.
Right.
And I do not like that.
And that's not to say that you can't be the one in charge in that position, but that's not how it was written.
This is a troublesome chapter.
I mean, if you're going to talk about sex workers and pimps and stuff, you're just going to get into this.
Yeah.
And I think it could have been better, but I'm not surprised that it wasn't.
Yeah, and I keep saying, 10 years ago, like that was that long ago, but things have changed since then. The way that, and I don't know if it's written this way to be salacious.
Maybe. Though that doesn't really seem like his deal.
No, it's not. We haven't seen that sort of thing from him before. Even the scene with an actual prostitute
was pretty demure.
Yeah.
Really.
So the brothels and all the prostitutes are paying Kappa Barsavi just like the right people do, but in lower percentages. I like that they have negotiated this. And when Barsavi comes to power, he leaves everything that has been set up in place, which seems pretty smart of him to do, especially since if something like that is working, you let it continue to work.
Well, and also the last Kappa lost a lot of men when he went against it. So yeah, if it's working and people aren't dying, that's probably a good path to stay on.
So next week, we're going to read chapter 15 and the following interlude. The chapter is called Spider Bite. And the interlude is called The Throne in Ashes.
Okay.
Any predictions?
I'm going to guess the obvious spider bite has to do with Locke being caught in a trap by the spider.
Caught in a trap, can't walk out because I love you too much like... No, that was terrible. I'm sorry.
So the interlude, the throne in ashes?
The Throne in Ashes.
So does the Duke have a throne?
Probably.
Okay. So maybe we're talking about a previous Duke that's house burned down?
So we're assuming the Duke probably has a throne. Barsavi had a big chair, right?
Yes.
It was throne-like.
That's true.
At one point, I remember the Thief Maker we talked about. He had the chair in the middle of the room that seemed very throne-like to him.
That's true.
Also, there's Throne Theron, which was the old, like the civilization before this. Or not the civilization, but the monarchy, maybe?
Also, throne could be not a literal throne, but a position. Somebody of power loses their power. You could say the throne in ashes. So really, there's an awful lot to pick from. I don't know how I could possibly narrow that down. In ashes. And also, I don't know if this is going to be a more recent interlude, more recent in time, like the previous interludes, or if it's going to be more like just the last couple, where it's even further back in history. So, I don't know.
Well, let's talk about the different people, since we were kind of saving the predictions for this because this is a short interlude than usual.
Not that it's been shorter, because we talked about the way that this interlude was written anyway, but yeah.
All right, let's start with the less favorite characters. Okay. The Salvaras. What's happening with the Salvaras?
I feel like the next chapter is likely going to be the Day of Changes.
Okay.
With the Duke's Feast. So I think the Salvaras will be there. I think the Spider's going to be there. I think Kappa Raza's going to be there. I think the Falconer's going to be there. I think Locke as Lucas is going to be there. I think Jean might be there.
Okay.
I feel like Jean would be uncomfortable with Locke being alone.
Yeah.
So he might be there. Well, also, he has been presented as Locke's servant, so he could show up as that also, with the Wicked Sisters safely hidden but within reach.
Yeah, there are only 2 chapters left.
Yeah, I feel like we definitely have to get to the point here. So, I think this chapter, and when I say think, I probably mean hope. I hope this chapter is going to bring all of these characters that have sort of been woven in and out of each other's lives together to get to the last stand.
Well, it seems like everyone's going to be at the feast.
I really hope, and it doesn't seem very likely at the feast. Well, I don't know. Kappa Raza's kind of a drama queen. He might decide when he gets the Duke's attention to make a big speech, and it might include why he was so mad at Barsavi. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he made a big thing, because that's what he did before.
Yeah.
You know, he stands up and he goes, ha ha ha, blah, 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 listen to me, you know.
So what's the deal with the 4 sculptures? He said that they could just be left there and the Duke could see them later when it was convenient. That seemed weird, right?
Definitely weird.
What's up with that?
So, sculptures. I wish there was like a way to play 20 questions with you right now, because I think my predictions would get a lot better, because I'm really good at 20 questions. But I have a feeling you're not going to go for that.
You can ask as many questions as you want.
Right, but you're not going to answer any of them, so that's not really going to help.
I may ask you questions based on those questions, but...
Okay, so I can't decide if the sculptures are of people or of other things.
Okay, well there are 4, so they could be a mix.
That's true.
Maybe one is the Eldrin giant squid that we love so much.
I do love a giant squid.
Yeah.
As long as it's not real. And as long as I'm not in the water. I think, yes, the sculptures might be made of glass. I hate making these predictions because I just have no idea.
That's why it's so fun to listen to them.
Might be glass and gold. It doesn't make any sense, though, that he's had these sculptures made, he's bringing them to the feast, but he doesn't care when the Duke sees them.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Is there somebody else that he wants to see them, and the Duke seeing them is secondary to this other person seeing them? Did the spider used to be a sex worker, and she's actually Roz's grandmother? I don't know.
What?
I don't know.
She didn't seem to recognize him.
Well, you could have grandkids that you've never met.
It's true.
No, I don't think that that's actually the story. I wonder if the sculptures have something to do with the revenge. So, you know, if Barsavi either killed Raza's parents or a parent or was the cause of their death, maybe the sculptures are of those people.
Like tributes.
Yeah, but Barsavi's dead, so that part wouldn't really matter. But I guess, though, if you lose your parents and they're important to you, you might still make sculptures of them just to respect them or remember them. But why would he take him to the Duke? Maybe the Duke is his father. You understand
Duke, I am your father.
I feel like these people somehow should be related to each other somehow.
You are really stuck on the familial aspect
I really
of revenge.
am. Because I think that the love that you feel for a person, whether it's romantic or familial, would drive revenge more than anything else.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not what it is, but I feel like that's top of the list.
I feel like I'd make a terrible Inigo Montoya.
Oh, I would just get so tired of it.
Yeah, I don't think I could do the whole revenge thing. It'd be like, I hate you forever and you're dead to me, but...
Also, how did he not find this guy after all this time?
Wait, who are we talking about? Inigo or the...
Yeah, Inigo Montoya.
Oh, okay.
How did he not find this guy? I mean, I know Inigo Montoya traveled, but this guy has been working with Prince Humperdinck for like 20 years.
Yeah.
You know I love to watch you work.
They were totally doing it.
Oh my gosh, so much. So much. Fiancé to murder. Yeah. Anyway. that whole scene is amazing. But...
I know.
So back to Locke Lamora. So I don't know. I just feel like my best guess is that this is about family somehow.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so I'm not sure how we got there from the Salvaras.
Because you wanted to ask me how I felt about all the characters, like what I thought was going to happen with them, and we started with the least fun.
Ah, that's right. So what about Donna Varchenza? Now that her mind has been altered.
I'm worried about her not living through the rest of the book.
Oh, okay.
I'm worried about her dying before the end.
Who would kill her?
If the Falconer can make her do and say and think whatever he and Raza want, it doesn't seem like they would have cause to kill her unless somehow she could fight it, or there's an accident, or she gets pneumonia because she's old. I don't know. Maybe there's a rainstorm on Day of Changes and she catches a cold. I prefer when people just die of old age instead of being murdered.
I feel like the spider is the one person that would not die of natural causes.
She's lived an awful long time.
That's true. Well, and according to you...
Unnaturally.
Yep, paying bonds magi to keep her alive far longer than she should have been.
Though, okay, so here's a flaw in your plan, Rosanna.
Now you're talking to yourself?
Yeah. If she was someone that used the services of a bonds mage, then you think that she would have some sort of protection against other bonds magi?
I don't know. Do you think that they have long-term spells like that?
Well, maybe not a long-term spell, but, you know, to have changed her name earlier.
Okay.
Or to have the one that works for her create something around her area so they couldn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like if you're somebody that knows about that part of the world and you're that smart, you would find ways to protect yourself.
Yeah, though, to be fair, only a couple of people actually know she's the spider, and so he really doesn't have much to worry about as far as being caught or being outed.
But based on just the scene that we got with her in the solarium with Reynard, she seems very cautious.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she would overlook something like that if it occurred to her.
All right, what about Gene? Last we saw him, he was...
Gene's gonna live a long and happy life, Nikki.
So, assuming he gets back to Abelius, he gets all healed up.
Yeah.
What's next for him?
I think he's gonna go to the Day of Changes, the Duke's Feast, with Locke, either hidden or as his manservant, because he wants to protect him. And there might be another fight scene. I'd be alright with that.
Ooh. So what happens with Locke? He's going into a very dangerous place.
I think he's gonna get bitten.
Ah.
I don't know if that means literally or figuratively.
So how does he get out of this? He's walking into a trap.
I don't know how he's gonna get out of it. I honestly I don't know.
When do you think he's gonna figure it out?
I very much hope he figures it out before it actually happens.
Okay.
Even if he doesn't figure it out in time to prevent it, I still want to believe that he's intelligent enough to realize it's coming.
Okay. Well, I mean, we saw him pause with the liquored orange before he ate it, slightly worried.
He's gotten out of a lot of, situations.
Yeah. Very tricky situations.
Yeah, so...
He is brilliant.
I have hope for him. Yeah, he is brilliant. And he's also shown that he's a very quick thinker.
Mm-hmm.
So once he realizes what's happening, he will be able to form a plan pretty quickly to turn things back in his favor.
Though I would love to see, it doesn't seem like we really have much time for 2 chapters left, but I'd love to see a sort of, was it Thomas Crown affair, where it was the thief and the person chasing the thief. They were both very intelligent, and it was really fun to see them against each other.
Yes.
Until they came together at the end.
Yeah. I mean, it's a Sherlock and Moriarty thing, where you have 2 people that are so evenly matched, and they're evenly matched with high intelligence. It just gives you a more interesting story.
Yeah. And we don't have a ton of time for that to happen here. I would love to read an entire book of the Gentleman Bastards versus the Spider.
Yeah, I'm really sad that... I'm still sad.
Yeah.
That so many of them are gone.
Yeah.
Death is so permanent.
Yeah. We don't have any reincarnation yet so far, so...
Yeah. All right. Who else do you want me to wildly speculate about?
No one in this, but how do you think this book is going to end?
I feel like Locke is going to leave Camorr.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not in the next, couple of chapters, but maybe in the epilogue or maybe at the start of the next book.
Okay. Why is that?
Because the next book is Red Sky Over Red Seas or something like that.
Yeah.
Seas to me sounds like a voyage, like he's going somewhere.
Okay.
Also, the end of this book might make him flee. He might have to leave Camorr, or he might decide that he wants to leave to start over, or, because there are too many memories of his lost brothers, or maybe he's going to go find Sabitha. Maybe there's something going on with her, but I feel like he's going to leave Camorr. And he's taking Jean with him because Jean's not going to die. So don't even ask. So the next couple chapters, there's going to be a culmination of this whole story to where we're going to get to the climax where it's all going to come out.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, which I still don't know.
That's our episode. Please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on Twitter at SomeCheek and Facebook.com/SomeCheek.
And listeners, please visit our website, somethingcheekypodcast.com, to send us questions, feedback, and learn about our other shows.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Do